Is Eve Corvin the strongest immortal? Are you under the impression that the Underworld series is merely violent werewolf versus vampire combat, a never-ending barrage of UV bullets and hot women in tight leather? You might have to reconsider. Sure, Underworld's otherworldly, Matrix-inspired action scenes are the franchise's primary allure, but delve a bit deeper and you will discover a sophisticated and detailed backstory that rivals even the most complex fantasy stories. If you're looking for a fiction drama, not unlike Game of Thrones, but with iconic cinema monsters and production design fresh out of a goth store, you've come to the right place. The tangled bloodlines and ever-shifting political alignments of Underworld help set the film apart from its predecessors, but it may not be easy to keep track of everything. You don't have to keep up with all of the talk about bloodlines, hybrids, and old vampire traditions to keep up with the action. The only thing you need to really know is that vampires are sort of the good guys and Lycans are kind of terrible. So how does Eve Corvin fit into all of this? Don't worry, because that's where this video comes in. If you're having trouble figuring out what's going on with the enigmatic Eve and don't mind a few huge revelations, here's all you need to understand about this intriguing hybrid. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, let's begin. Eve Corvin, hybrid of both immortal species Vampire and Lycan. Eve, whose full name is Eve Corvin, is the very first hybrid and is born to Celine and Michael Corvin. She is also one of the very few modern-day Corvinist clan descendants. She is an exciting cross between the immortal species Vampire and Lycan. She's a tribrid of vampire plus werewolf plus active immortal Corvinist gene, unlike her father who has dormant Corvinist gene. This makes her perhaps the most powerful Corvinist strain product to date, as well as perhaps one of the most deadly immortals the franchise has seen. Her lifeblood is very precious and many forces are after her in order to acquire it, for it has the ability to bestow incredible power on someone else, making her a prime target for many foes. Eve has long brown colored hair that falls beyond her neck and down her back, as well as blue eyes. When she transforms into a hybrid, her skin changes color and becomes blue like her father's, while her eyes turn black and her iris changes to the dazzling blue tint that is a feature of Celine. She, like Michael, is unable to talk while transformed, and her voice is reduced to grunts, hisses, and shouts akin to a Lycan. In terms of visual characteristics, Eve resembles her mother most except for her dazzling eyes, which according to Celine are identical to her father's. Eve was born and bred in utter captivity, kept away and hidden from the civilization her parents were apprehended by the Infected Persons Unit before they ever could realize that Celine was with child. Antigen, the biotech organization that is responsible for the kidnapping of Celine and Michael. Eve was raised in captivity, and she is the mysterious subject 2 who Eve mistakenly believes to be Michael. She has lived in complete isolated confinement for the first 11 or 12 years of her existence. Her caregivers informed her that her parents had died before she came into existence, which prevented her from discovering anything about her true origins or powerful nature. She does, however, indicate that due to her mental link to Celine, she was pretty convinced that her caregivers were dishonest about the fact that she was an orphan. Only one doctor, who was her personal caregiver, ever considered her as more than a specimen to be toyed with inside a lab, with the rest dismissing her as an experiment. When Eve is notified that she is going to be executed soon, she manages to escape custody and also somehow finds and frees her mother, Celine, whose identity she had only lately discovered before fleeing herself. Although Celine is initially unaware of Eve's existence and thinks Eve's presence is Michael, her mental link allows Celine to see through the eyes of Eve, prompting her to pursue her young daughter. Celine is taken aback by Eve's physical look when she is in hybrid form and is also shocked to learn of her sheer strength. Eve goes on to express her dread and displeasure at her mother's separation after being checked on by a doctor who is also a vampire named Olivia and is fed some blood to recuperate from a Lycan attack. However, Celine tells her daughter that her broken-hearted silence is due to her sadness and pain at Eve's father's abrupt death, rather than a lack of concern for Eve. When Eve is apprehended by Antigen soldiers, Celine leads an ambush on the corporation, allowing Eve to escape safely. She meets Jacob Lane, who is an evolved Lycan doctor who attempted to utilize Eve's DNA and lifeblood to develop a more powerful silver-resistant breed of Lycans. The two battle violently, with Eve eventually overpowering Lane by actually ripping his throat out. Although Eve gets a sudden vision of Michael leaving the facility, her father disappears on the roof of the building before she and her mother could catch up with him. Eve is surprisingly highly intelligent, quite observant, and immensely mature for her age, but she is also highly reserved and introvert and is easily frightened due to the fact that she is both young and unused to social interactions, having been brought up in captivity and treated as a test subject, and denied a decent childhood. Her only daily communication with other human beings were the scientists. Eve wants to experience true freedom and be with her family. Believing from the start that her kidnappers were deceiving her about being an orphan because of her telepathic link to her mother, Eve manages to go into hiding before the commencement of Blood Wars and makes Celine promise not to go seeking for her. She had only left Celine with a strand of her hair as memory, which is no doubt very painful for the newly discovered mother. The Lycan leader Marius tries to pursue Celine in order to uncover Eve's whereabouts in order to acquire her blood and drink it and improve his own abilities, but discovers that even Celine is unaware of her own daughter's whereabouts, and he comes to the unhappy realization that he is not going to find her. Celine goes on to become one of the only 3 brand new vampire elders following Marius' death, and also goes on to remain at the Nordic Coven, where Eve later arrives seeking her mother, perhaps after Celine summons her daughter to herself. Eve is briefly seen as being alive and healthy in the film, although she plays no active part in most of the film. Eve is depicted as a fierce warrior who will not hesitate to use deadly force to defend all the people close to her. Some of this may be due to innate predatory impulses, and some may be due to the fact that she knows all too well that if she decides not to fight to save and protect herself, she will eventually meet a painful demise. Despite this, Eve doesn't really seem to be malicious. She plainly cares for her mom and the rest of the people who defend her, and murders only those who damage or endanger her, and is essentially a lonely and fearful child caught up in events beyond her power. Eve was uninformed about her father's existence inside Antigen, and was also most likely told that he, just like her mother, had died. When she escaped, she appeared more concerned about Celine and mending her relationship with her mother than with Michael. She did, however, look both intrigued and melancholy when Celine mentioned that she has Michael's eyes. Eve realizes she has a telepathic link to Michael as well, and seeks to find him together with Celine and David, suggesting that Eve cares about her father and wishes to meet him, even though it may not seem that way outwardly.
It's worse if you try.
What makes her so powerful? Eve possesses the anatomy of a hybrid, unlike most characters in the franchise, and hence the full extent of Eve's talents remain unknown due to both her pre-adolescence and her brief time in Underworld mythology. She is possibly genetically the most powerful of immortals, with the most remarkable traits from each race as well as fury and bloodlust. Her unique combination of the Corvinist gene makes her a force to be reckoned with. Eve, like her father, who is yet another hybrid, exhibits bestial blood wrath as she reveals her real nature. This appears to activate her strength as she lacks any formal combat training or fighting expertise and is completely dependent only on purely raw, unadulterated force to protect herself. Eve has shown incredible endurance for an immortal at such an early age. She has extraordinary resilience and has been observed cutting herself casually with little evidence of agony, as well as fast healing from serious physical injuries such as being struck by a Lycan who has evolved. Even before she had ever drunk any blood for the very first time in her existence, she had only displayed minimal discomfort from a pretty severe Lycan bite, even tearing in half the skull of the very Lycan that bit her viciously. Even by immortal standards, Eve boasts an incredibly potent healing factor. Unfortunately, being starved of blood for over 11 years from the time she was born until she was taken to the Coven has diminished this feature of hers, presumably human level. Nonetheless, after tasting blood for the very first time, the bite wound on her body healed at an astonishing rate, entirely recovering within seconds. She slashed her arm multiple times later, and the injuries healed almost entirely within seconds. She was also able to resist anesthetic gas for an extended amount of time before eventually fainting. Eve's superpower, like that of Lycans, appears to be activated by extreme emotions such as fury or fright, even when attacked by any transformed inferior Lycan or even an enhanced Lycan. Eve's most impressive feats of power include ripping a lesser Lycan's head in two when weak and injured, keeping a rampaging Lycan in check with a heavy door made of wood, and eventually pulling out an enhanced Lycan's neck. Celine believes Eve is more deadly than any living vampire or Lycan. Eve has razor-sharp claws capable of causing significant harm in her hybrid form. she can presumably sprout them without entirely accessing and transforming into her hybrid nature. In Underworld Awakening, Eve is also shown to be able to detect the impending arrival of a Lycan attack. Her senses may be superior to her mother's, even if Selene wasn't paying close attention, or perhaps her Lycan ancestry allows her to identify other Lycans. With her superhero speed, she is shown fleeing from view in seconds, avoiding law enforcement, powerful Lycan soldiers, Jacob Lane, and even her mother. Eve can also hurl herself on top of a Lycan's back with full power, and her extraordinary agility allows her to perform twists and flips while fighting. She is also capable of jumping exceptionally high without trouble, once climbing up a 20-foot tall wall in a room and reaching up to the ceiling with remarkable ease. She has shown the capacity to attach herself to walls, presumably even without contact with skin, as witnessed when she scrambled up the wall of the chamber she was kept prisoner in at Antigen headquarters, while attempting to fight off the effects of an anesthetic chemical. Eve is entirely resistant to both any ultraviolet light and the metal silver in any form because she is a hybrid of the immortal creatures, Lycans and vampires. She can also sense images and hear noises from either of her parents' perspectives. For years, although this only happened between Eve and Selene, her mother, since they were kept close together, and her father was kept too far off from her for something like this to happen. This sensory synchronization ability appears to be a random event rather than a controlled occurrence. Eve, being a hybrid, is also resistant to age and sickness, and her life will last for hundreds and thousands of years. There was a moment in time when you couldn't go into a movie theater without even seeing a billboard or trailer depicting a gloomy protagonist in a mysterious black leather jacket or a trench coat amid an eerie moonlight sky. Somber action flicks like Underworld, I, Frankenstein, and Twilight all share characteristics that are so set in their DNA that it's difficult to picture them without their stylish action, gothic aesthetics, and dark tone. Though the prominence of the horror subgenre has waned since its peak, Underworld is one series that has shown to have endured even today. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.